Welcome to the Armchair Crew Chief. My name is Jordan, and we have another action-packed episode for you guys. Let's go ahead and dive into it. This weekend was busy for Saturday and Sunday. This week we were at Pocono. We actually went to the race and saw all the racing, and it's a wild ride. You know, I've told you guys before, if you can make it out to a race, you guys need to do that because it is well worth it. So let's go ahead and dive into everything. Yeah, everything got kind of like crammed together because we had ARCA Menards racing, we had Truck Series racing, we had Xfinity racing, and we had Cup Series. Rain pushed ARCA to the morning of Saturday, which ended up making this day extended long for everybody. People working it, people watching it. It was wild and crazy, and I can tell some people were tired, but you know, they worked it out. Some of them reaped the benefits of it, and the other ones, I can assure you, they probably had a fun time, even though some wrecked or some had issues. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Let's go ahead and jump into the Truck Series and get going with that. That was a pretty good race. As we've talked about it before, it can be a wreck fest. It was fun to watch, just watching all the trucks go back and forth. The qualifying happened on Friday afternoonish. So our top 10 for starting were Chase Purdy, Corey Heim, Matty D, Rajah Caruth, Zane Smith, Austin Hill from 10 to 5. Top 4 were Carson Hocevar, Grant Enfinger, Jake Garcia, and Nick Sanchez getting the pole. And it looked like it was going to be a good race. And how everything kind of played out, we had a couple guys from the Cup Series running in this race. We had Kyle Busch. He ended up starting 12th. Christopher Bell, 14th. And Ross Chastain was running 23rd, or started 23rd, excuse me. So you had some of these guys that run well. Normally Matt Crafton, who's been up and down this year, he was 25th. And, you know, it was something. I think it was one of these that Nick Sanchez, he was up there running. He was doing well. I could see him. I thought he was going to win, honestly. Nick Sanchez had a really fast truck. And, you know, he was up there in the stage one. We had Zane Smith and then Nick Sanchez. Matty D was another guy doing well. Kyle Busch just ran up there, and he does what he does in the trucks. You know, it's one of those things that you know what he's going to do. Like it or love it, hate it, whatever you want to call it. He sits there and he can make money with his team. So, you know, he ended up getting up there. And then we had, you know, the end of stage 2, Zane Smith still up there. He had a really strong truck. Stuart Friesen, watching, he was doing well. You know, a couple of the guys that we follow, Rajah Caruth and Haley Deegan. I think Haley Deegan spun early, or she got caught up and she just wasn't running well. And it hurt her, but it's almost like a continuation of what her season has been. It's been really, really poor. I don't know if this is a telltale sign that either she needs to do better, or this is not her sport, or if she just can't handle trucks. I don't know. That's one of those things that will come into play later going forward. She did finish 12th in the stage 2. But then going forward, just watching, it was tough. Tanner Gray was the first guy that ended up getting the caution, spun his truck. So he caused one of the cautions. And, you know, going through the race, at the end of the race, it's all strategy, obviously. But, you know, unfortunately, Jake Garcia and Nick Sanchez collided at the end of almost at the end of the race. 15 laps to go, and it hurt his chances. He had a very strong truck. I mean, he was running, you know, top 2 at the end of the stages going forward. So it was tough. It was tough to see that for him. and what he was doing. Raja Karuth was another guy that was having some hard times. I wouldn't say, I will correct myself, I won't say too much hard time, as it was, he was just running, and it was, he finished 8th in the stage, but just, it seemed like there he wasn't able to move forward more, and maybe it's just the way everything was going. So going ahead and finishing off the end of the race here for the trucks, we'll go ahead and finish this with talking about our two people that we talk about more or less on this podcast. Raja Karuth, he finished 16th. Haley Deegan finished 13th. And we'll go ahead and talk about our top 5. Grant Enfinger, he had a strong showing towards the end when everybody was kind of cycling through. Christopher Bell, 4th. Taylor Gray, 3rd. Corey Heim, 2nd. And Kyle Busch was able to come back and have a strong resurgence, and he ended up getting his 100th Truck Series victory. So he now has 100 victories in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. And I believe he might have said something where he's no longer going to be running trucks once he hits that plateau. So let's go ahead and dive into the playoffs for this one. Our last people that are there, we have Matt Crafton, that's 9 points to the good. Matty D, 31 points to the good. Nick Sanchez and Ty Majeski. Our other guys that have won are up there: Corey Heim, Zane Smith, Christian Eckes, Grant Enfinger, Carson Hocevar, Ben Rhodes. Stuart Friesen, I could see him probably making it in. It's going to be tough between the 88 and the 52. Matt Crafton in the 88, Stuart Friesen in the 52. I think those are going to be the guys battling for that last spot. We have one last race before playoffs start for the Truck Series, and that will be next week at Richmond. And we'll see what happens going forward there. I could see a lot of people trying to push to get into it. We're talking roughly, let's see, there's about 2 people that I could see up and down. Tanner Gray is so far out, it's hard to tell what he can do. He's 47 points below the cut line, and it's hard to tell what he'll be able to do. So moving forward to the Xfinity race. Xfinity race was a good race also. I think it was all good racing this weekend. Even the ARCA series, the one guy that we follow, Frankie Muniz, Malcolm in the middle, he had some issues at the beginning that kind of hurt him. But other than that, everything was just great racing. So going into the qualifying, Josh Berry got the pole. Daniel Hemrick, Sheldon Creed, Connor Mosack, John Hunter Nemechek rounded out the top 5. And, again, looking at everything, we had the junior motorsports did well. We're talking they got, 3 of the top 10 starting positions. Justin Allgaier 9th, Sam Mayer. Actually, all the guys got in the top 10. Excuse me. Sam Mayer 8th, Brandon Jones 7th, and then you had Josh Berry with the pole. It was pretty good to see that. Austin Hill has been very strong so far this year. He seems to be the guy to beat. He started off 11th, and they had to battle the likes of Chase Elliott out there running. It'd be interesting to see what happens going forward. I think these guys are going to do well. I think it's going to end up being between like an Austin Hill. I would like to see Josh Berry kind of get in there and see what he can do, since we already know he's moving to the 4 next year. If he can come out and maybe put a string of wins together and go out and get that championship before he rides off up to the Cup, I don't know. It would be interesting to see going forward, what he can do. It's tough to see some of these other guys running and see how they go. Overall, the racing was great. We did have some incidences going forward. John Hunter Nemechek and Cole Custer got into it. They ended up not finishing too hot, and we, going into it. But let's go ahead and look at everything here. We have 7 races, for the championship field coming up. They're actually going to be at a different race than the Cup and trucks. But let's go ahead and catch you on what happened on the stages and going forward. So our top 4 for stage 1 were Josh Berry, Daniel Hemrick, John Hunter, Sammy Smith, and then finishing stage 2, Josh Berry, John Hunter, Brandon Jones, and then finishing off the race, we have our top 5. We'll start with 5, go to 1. Daniel Hemrick finished 5th, Riley Hurst 4th, Chase Elliott 3rd, Sam Mayer 1st, and Sam Mayer 2nd. Austin Hill won the race. And, I mean, yeah, Josh Berry got caught up, and he ended up wrecking, and it kind of, that's what we were talking about. It kind of ended his day, and it kind of stunk. Josh Williams had he had a good running. Everybody knows him from Atlanta and Parkett. The only person that was really retired, there was a few people retired, but the first person retired was Sage Karam. And then we had a couple of these other guys go in there. And, Josh Berry ended up finishing the race. He finished 24th. Allgaier finished 23rd. And, we'll see what happens. They both hit the wall, Allgaier and Berry. And Hill just went out there and he ran it. And, like I said, Hill's been doing really well this year. I could see him winning the championship. It's hard to tell going forward, but he's got John Hunter. John Hunter's been one of the other guys strong. And, it's JGR. It's theirs to lose with them being the champion from, Ty Gibbs coming out there last year. So going into the end of this race, as we said, we have 7 races going. And if we look at our predicted playoff here, we are looking at a 12 field starting. And, Parker Kligerman's up there at 26 to the good. And, we'll see what happens. Riley Hurst. Parker Kligerman's behind. I could see those guys changing back and forth. Sam Mayer's pretty up there for the good. You got people like Jeb Burton. That's kind of, we'll see what happens. He made it up on a win. We have one guy that's higher than some of our winners, Josh Berry. He is up there. But I think it's going to be, go back and watch Riley Hurst, Parker Kligerman. Those guys are going to be the ones to watch. Sam Mayer, I think he might be good unless he has a string of bad races. I mean, we're talking 7 races left, so it's hard to tell with that. But I could see Parker maybe squeezing it in and Riley coming out. It's hard to tell. And so that's something to end up watching on that. So just moving over into the Cup Series. Cup Series was, it was a good race. We had some wrecks. We had some pretty strong wrecks. Joe Logano spun, hit the wall. He was very upset with the crew out there towing him, and he was kind of complaining about all that. And, whether it was rightfully so or no, I don't know. Tyler Reddick was kind of involved in an incident, so to speak, with Austin Dillon. Looking at the replays, Reddick was there. Austin Dillon was coming down, and Austin Dillon hit him and ran out of room. Didn't see him. I don't know what's going on. But he blamed Reddick. He ended up throwing his helmet, and that's something we'll talk about later going forward. But it was interesting. Reddick had a really strong showing. Truex was one of those guys up there. So the guys starting the race, qualifying, are your normal people that you see up there. William Byron got the pole. Martin Truex was second. Kyle Larson third. Kevin Harvick has been coming into it more of late, I think. He's fourth. Christopher Bell rolls off fifth. So you have a lot of your normal guys that you see up there running, and then you had some people that run that you don't normally see. I mean, Corey LaJoie, strong start, started 12th. Ty Gibbs 11th. Bubba Wallace 10th. And I think LaJoie might have had a better finish than he had if it wasn't for his early spin. He kind of spun. He was pretty much the first guy that we'll call wreck, throw out the caution. He spun, and he had to come back out there, and he ran. It was close watching the race from where we were. he was inching and inching to being close to being lapped on that first stage just because of everything going on. But, it was rough to see. Suarez was also part of that wreck with Joey Logano. I mean, they spun into turn one. Turn one is really tough because you're coming off that straightaway and you're going really fast and you're going far away from your guys, your spotters. And then you're getting into the turn, that one is the highest banking of the 3 turns. Pocono has 3 different degrees of bankings, which is one reason why they call it the tricky triangle. And then you hit into the long pond straightaway, which is actually the longest part of the track. And then you hit, hit in the tunnel turn, then turn 3. People think turn 3, it lasts forever just because it's so low banking and it's such a wide sweeping turn. It's one of those that, you can catch some wrecks there, but you're mostly catching wrecks because people are starting to grab gears and going down that front stretch. And next thing you know, they got to slow down, and that front stretch is so wide there that you can go, you can go multiple cars deep going into that race. So, as I was saying, Dylan was involved in a couple wrecks of there. He was visibly upset. We'll talk about that going forward because there is some news coming out for that. But just going forward, restarts were the key for this, I believe. I mean, we finished stage 1. We have Logano, Truex, Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick, and AJ Allmendinger. He's one of the guys you don't really hear talking about. He did well. Now, and I also say he did well, too, because some of these guys short-pitted the stage, so you had them come in and go through, and they weren't worrying about stage points. I think it was smarter to stay out and get the stage points, especially if you're vying for either that you're right there on the cut line or you just want to pad that, like Truex. He's sitting there fighting for the championship, a regular season championship. Same thing with Christopher Bell. And so, it's one of those things to see what would play out there. Moving forward, again, it's one of those short pits styles. Truex ended up going in pitting before the end of the stage, so he ended up finishing 10th. He still got points, but it was there real close. Ty Gibbs got points in this one. Reddick, our top 4 for our stage 2 was Kyle Larson, Ty Dillon, William Byron, Denny Hamlin. There was a top 4. Ty Dillon was up there. I don't think he would. That one was interesting to see because of how everything was with the tires, older tires, and so on. But we had a string of restarts in the last stage that it was like, man, if they didn't push, you weren't getting up there. And you could see that where either Truex was behind Larson and they were pushing and he just stayed second, or if one of these other guys was up there, William Byron, I think was one of the guys, he's up there and, on the bottom row, and they didn't go. And it's one of those things that was interesting to see what happened. So let's go ahead and finish off our end of the race on where everybody's standing. We'll start with the 10 and go to 1. Chase Elliott, good, strong finish for him. Unfortunately, it's going to be a win and end for him, it seems like. Eric Jones, 9th. Harrison Burton, 8th. Ricky Stenhouse had a really strong showing. He did well. He started 22nd, so he had a poor qualifying, and then he came up and was able to make it right and finished strong. Christopher Bell, 6th. Ty Gibbs, 5th. Harvick finished 4th. Truex finished 3rd. Reddick finished 2nd. Denny finished 1st. Now, we'll get into a little bit of the end of the race because that was the very controversial portion of this race, in my opinion. They did have, at the end of stage 2, they did have the controversy because somebody ended up having a wreck and they ended up going towards the end of the stage and ended stage 2 under caution. And then they immediately opened up pit road because you had people like a Larson who won that stage. They were on fumes. Same thing that I was talking with Ty Dillon. They were on fumes, and they opened that pit road a lot earlier at the end of a stage than they've done in the past. And so that was one of those, what in the world's going on here? But the big one was we had a few wrecks and a few restarts. Truex got up front. He led a lot in that second stage. 20 laps led. Tyler Reddick led 15. And Denny Hamlin led 9. Now, the controversy coming up, there was one of the controversies that I see, and I was listening to Larry McReynolds yesterday on our way back, and he was like, I'm not drinking the NASCAR Kool-Aid. They did the right thing and yada, yada, yada. The thing that caught us, and we've talked about it at home, is we're listening to the radio there. I think it was Ryan Preece spun. They had that caution flag in hand, about to wave it, and they put it back and pulled the white flag. So we did not have an overtime restart. We had it end under caution because Ryan Preece didn't get going, and Denny ended up winning the race. And so that's how that happened. We see it as, from a fan side, being there because Pocono was sold out camping, sold out in the grandstands. I mean, this is the best showing that they've had in 13 years, if I remember correctly. And you sit there and you're going to end it under yellow when you had the yellow flag in hand. What's the worst that's going to happen? I mean, NASCAR's thrown cautions for spinouts that people have gotten right and going a lot quicker than, Ryan Preece. And I know people will sit there and like, well, it's a 2.5 mile track. And they would have gone around and he could have got it going. I don't care. You sit there and somebody spins and there's still time for him to get going. And he cleared before the guys would have actually made it to him. But they're going to throw that caution immediately after he spins. It's inconsistency. We've talked about it before with NASCAR. It's been inconsistency on when they throw the caution, how they throw the caution. And that's the issue that we have, that I have with some of these cautions. The other part of this is Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson. Larson was up there. So the restart was Hamlin, Reddick, and Larson. Those were your four, and then Truex. Those were your four guys up there on the restart, the final restart before the end of the race. Now, if you noticed, I didn't mention Larson up there in that top 10 and that top 4. He finished 21st. Now, if we go back and look at everything, Denny Hamlin, somebody who listens to this podcast actually made a comment and said, for as many times as Denny Hamlin's around accidents, he surely says that he doesn't cause any of them. And this is another one of those things where he's like, they all wreck themselves. And if you go back and look, he did the same stinking thing he did to Ross Chastain last year on the Long Pond Straight, where he just slowly slid up and pretty much made Larson hit the wall. And, I don't like Larson as a winning so much, but that's dirty in my opinion. And I think, Larson ended up saying, he's like, to our buddies, Denny Hamlin is never wrong and he's always right. So that's how it's going to be. And then we go to Denny Hamlin going on to this, and Truex ended up talking about it. And it's very interesting about it. Truex comes out and says, he slid him up, he run him, and he's like, but he gave him that extra little push. And, the dirty, he kind of mentioned about being dirty. I'm going to pull up the quote here real quick while we're talking about everything and just discuss it with you guys. And I'll read a quote so I don't take it out of context so much. But his quote was, I did exactly what Denny did. He kind of took it that extra, make it a little dirty, and I didn't. So maybe that's the difference why he won and I didn't. And, that's true. He slid up there and he pushed him up there. Truex ain't going to really try to do that. The other thing that kind of hurt Truex was nobody was pushing. I think the only person that pushed, and it was kind of surprising, was Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs had a really great push on Truex in the start. And just going forward, that didn't happen with any of the other guys. So it's I don't know. It's one of those things that sucks. I don't really like Denny Hamlin. He got a lot of boos for what happened because, you have a lot of Larson fans out there, and he just got the boos. So let's go ahead and dive into the playoff standings. We'll kind of change gears here for you guys. So our big thing that we're looking at here is our regular series championship towards our cutoff line for these guys. So we have Truex and William Byron sitting there fighting for that regular season championship. And Truex ended up getting some more points, gaining ground. I think he was like 18 points to the good before Pocono, and now he's doing well. He got up to 30 points. I mean, it's still not something to sit there and knock it in the bank on how everything's going, because I think it's 7 races. They're the same as Xfinity before the start of the playoffs. And, we still have William Byron with 4 wins, Truex and Kyle Busch with 3 wins. And let's go ahead and dive into it. You got Denny and Larson with 2 wins. Then everybody else has one win. Our cutoff line has changed just a little bit here. We are really close on 2 spots. I think Kevin Harvick, you can lock him in. Brad Keselowski, lock him in. They're 163 points, 122 points to the good, to the cutoff line. Chris Buescher's up there too, 111 points. He's there at the 15th and 16th spots. Those are the ones we need to watch for and see what happens. And that's going to be involving. It's getting closer now. You got Bubba Wallace at 15th, Michael McDowell at 16th. They are 27 and 17th respectively to the good. AJ Allmendinger, Daniel Suarez, Ty Gibbs, and then you could kind of throw in Alex Bowman at 46. That one's kind of a long shot, I think. Chase Elliott's at 56. But you have AJ Allmendinger, 17 points to the good, or to the below, sorry. You have Daniel Suarez, 23 points below. Ty Gibbs, 28 points below. I think it's one of these guys to lose. I could see Allmendinger making it up there if he makes a strong running and McDowell doesn't, and vice versa. But again, if we have a new winner, let's say Harvick goes up there and win. Harvick goes up there and win, it doesn't matter. If we have, a Suarez goes up there, a Bowman goes up there and wins. If Elliott wins, like he's got to win to get into this, it'll knock McDowell out. We're looking at the standings right now, and we're only looking at one spot that's probably not locked in points-wise for this race. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think we're going to be in for some good racing going forward. We do have Road America and Richmond coming up this weekend. We have Xfinity at Road America, and the Trucks and Cup Series are at Richmond this weekend. So we're going to be having qualifying at Richmond at 5:35 on Friday. We have practice and qualifying for Road America on USA. Unfortunately, Trucks qualifying is not going to be on TV this weekend. And then we go into Cup Series. Practice and qualifying will be on USA at 12:35 Eastern on Saturday, 1:20 qualifying. And then we're going to sit here and do the Xfinity race at 3 Eastern on NBC. MRN is going to be calling the radio broadcast. And then we have MRN and Fox for the Truck Series. That's going to be a night race at 7:30. And then Sunday, the Cookout 400 for Richmond will be on USA, MRN with the radio broadcast. 3 p.m. Eastern will be the start of that. And so we'll go forward. News that's happened since we've been talking. We have a open spot next year for the 31 car, excuse me. Justin Haley has actually signed a multiple year extension or new contract with Rick Ware Racing. And depending on who you talk about, they're saying, that's the end of his career, but who knows what's going to happen with that. I've thought because Rick Ware is one of these guys that doesn't really run up front a lot, but hey, if they're paying him and they're able to do it, who knows? Maybe they'll come up and start contending more. Shane Van Gisbergen is actually going to be running the Indianapolis Road Course race. I think it's the second weekend in August. And then NASCAR is actually going to be looking into the Austin Dillon. We were talking about that Austin Dillon and that Tyler Reddick push there and controversy. Austin Dillon threw his helmet at Tyler Reddick's car, and NASCAR is going to be looking to that, see what's happening with that. So we'll see what happens. We'll post some information about what's going on, and if anything happens or comes from that, who knows. So just moving forward, again, we'll touch on this weekend. This weekend was wild. It was fun. Got to meet Justin Allgaier. Got to meet the kids. Got to be part of the waving of the flags for driver intros, and drivers got in between them. And overall, it was just a wild, fun race. We love going to Pocono camping going forward. I was able to, if you haven't seen any Facebook posts, I was able to get a special interview. This is our first interview for the podcast, so I want to go ahead and thank him in advance right now. We were able to get the spotter for the 47 Cup car, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., so he's won the Daytona 500 this year, as well as he was a winner this weekend with Kyle Busch Motorsports in the 51 truck as a spotter. So gracious to have Tab Boyd come on and take a roughly 10 minutes to talk, have some questions for him. And I hope you guys really do enjoy this interview. I hope I can get some more for you guys, but we're going to go ahead and go right into that interview and then go from there. And you guys have a great one, and we'll see you next weekend. Talk to you soon. So, hey guys, I know I kind of rushed at the end of that main bit of the podcast, but I just wanted to come back and again say thank you to Tab Boyd. He is our first interviewee of this podcast. I hope to have more from people that either enjoy, love racing, or that actually work in this business going forward. I know it can be very busy for those guys, but this is something that I hope to enjoy and to do. I enjoy, but I hope to have more of going further. As I was saying, Tab Boyd is the 47 Ricky Stenhouse Jr. spotter, and one thing I didn't know is he actually spotted for Kyle Busch, as I was mentioning, when he won the race. So it was fun to see that and learn more things that I didn't even know, and see how some of these guys prepare and how they feel about different things going forward. So once again, I want to jump into this interview with Tab Boyd. Again, I'm gracious and I am thankful that he was able to give me the time to actually take care of this. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And again, have a good one. Thank you. All right. Hey, guys. I'm here with the spotter for Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Tab Boyd. Thanks a lot for being part of this. I appreciate it. Busy weekend, I know, with the rain that we've had and everything so on. So if you don't mind, I want to go ahead and get into it. What's the most enjoyable thing for spotting for you?
There's a lot of cool things, just being in the sport and traveling around to different parts of the country, and the friendships you make, and lifelong friends I've met while on the road. But as far as during the race, I would say having a clean race, being sharp on your calls, and that's the most enjoyable thing. Whenever you have a good car and you have a good day, at the end of the day you can feel proud, because there sure is a lot of pretty tough days, so you got to take the good with the bad.
Awesome. Who else do you spot for besides Ricky Stenhouse?
This year I'm doing the 51 truck, so got to win the race with Kyle Busch yesterday.
Congratulations.
So that was pretty awesome, thank you. And the 91 for DGM Racing, and different drivers throughout the race.
Cool. All right, so you spotted for various Cup drivers. How easy is it to adjust to different drivers and their styles? And what's the weirdest quirk that you've had from a driver?
Well, everybody has a different background, and I've spotted for Montoya for 5 years, Logano, William Byron. Everybody has a little bit of a different background, and everybody, even though they're really good and they're really fast, they have different things they want to hear, different ways to go about things. So you have to be very open-minded to changing your style. But I do have a style that I just have like standard. So I used to race a little bit, short tracks, things like that, and I basically would tell the driver what I would want to hear if I was in that situation. And it seemed to work pretty good for me throughout the years. And there's different guys that want to hear different things, because the sport's changing. These cars and the Cup Series are so hard to pass and get a handle on. Every little bit counts, to where used to you could get away with a couple of bad laps, but now you have to be on it every single lap and help your driver along to find different grooves, let them know what other guys are doing, and just get all you can get throughout the day.
Awesome. So you mentioned about some of communicating with your driver so they understand it. What are some of the challenges spotting at somewhere like we're here at Pocono, where you can barely, from the grandstands, I know you're higher up, you can barely see turn 2, versus somewhere like a Bristol that's a small track, or even North Wilkesboro when you guys were out there for the first time in a long time?
Yeah, Pocono is one of the most difficult ones, because turn 1 is so far away and the cars are going directly away from you. It's really hard to tell. They look like they're 3 wide, but there might be a couple car lengths in between them that you don't realize until they start turning in the corner. But The distance is a big difficulty. Daytona and Talladega, of course, with the drafting is very difficult because you want to pick the correct lane. If you get into a wrong lane trying to make a move, you go straight to the back. And Atlanta now is a big challenge because it's the same thing as Daytona and Talladega, just a mile less in length, and all that action is packed into that little area. So it's mayhem at Atlanta. So I really love the short tracks. I like being able to see the cars, and you can see the drivers working the wheel. And Bristol's one of my favorites. I love Martinsville. Everywhere we go has its own cool quirk about it, and you just do the best you can to help your driver to the front.
What do you think about the dirt on Bristol?
To be 100% honest, I don't care for it.
There's a lot of people that don't like that.
Yeah. That was one of the most action-packed, awesome tracks we go to.
Right.
So it didn't need the dirt.
Yeah.
So I like good old Bristol, especially the Saturday night Bristol.
Yeah. So what do you think about the new car? What are your thoughts on it, seeing how it runs now?
Well, I mean, the new cars, whenever you see them up close and in person, they're beautiful. I mean, they're really, really cool. And everything's just a little bit different. They have a transaxle now instead of a classic rear end housing and transmission. All the suspension is different. The wishbones in the rear, everything just handles different than what we're traditionally used to. The aero has always been important in racing, but now it's important but different because you can work it around to have more downforce in different parts of the car. So there's so much engineering that goes into it, and you try to learn as much as you can throughout the week of what they have going on, so that during the race you can help your driver advance up to the front.
Cool. All right, so I'm going to throw a curveball to you. How do you feel about guys like Shane Van Ginsenbergen, those guys coming in with the 91 car for Trackhouse, running these road courses? I hear he's running at Indy coming up soon. So what are your thoughts as a true stock car guy seeing these?
Hey, if they can find a competitive car and race, that's cool with me. I mean, I knew he was going to run good before he ever made a lap because I watched those.
The supercars are the closest to these. Yeah,
I really like watching Scott McLaughlin race his Indy cars, and I watched him whenever I worked at Penske. He was our teammate, and they raced over there, so we watched a lot of those races.
Yeah,
and I knew those guys get after it, so it don't surprise me one bit. So if they can come over and race, it's cool. It's cool to see Kimi Räikkönen every now and then, and guys like that. So that's what it's all about.
So my last and final question for you is, what would you say to somebody who hasn't watched NASCAR before or just started, that's listening or, wants to get into it? I know personally we have two people that haven't, at our campsite here at Pocono, that haven't even, it's been a while, and it's his wife's first time ever at a NASCAR race.
Yeah.
So she's kind of just awestruck by everything.
Yeah.
What would you say to that person outside that thinks it's just a bunch of rednecks?
I would say, because even I hear it still to this day, they're just going around in circles. That's pretty boring. Yeah. But when you get into it and you see the strategy, I would encourage people to go get a scanner and listen to the drivers and the crew and the spotter talk during the race, because that adds an enormous element to what's going on. You can hear them talking. You can hear the banter. You can know what's happening with pit strategy, and that adds a total new element to the race for somebody that's new. And it's really interesting when you start getting into fuel mileage and pit strategy, 2 tires, 4 tires, no tires, fuel only. There's so many strategies. It's a lot of entertainment if you dig a little deeper into it. So it's not just sitting there and watching a car go around in circles. There's a lot of strategy, and I would encourage going to a race in real life, because these cars are fast. Even at the short tracks, they are flying. And even to this day, I've been doing this 26 years, the opportunity I get to walk down close to the fence and feel and see those cars go by is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you very much for your time
on
this busy weekend. And good luck out there to you guys. And,
thank you very much.
Hopefully you guys get up there and get running.
Yeah, it'll be a good day.
Yeah, see that new victory lane for the second time.
There you go.
So. Yeah.